Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about the ecology unit. So ecology is a study of interactions and interrelationships between living things in their environment. A species is an organism with similar characteristics that can reproduce successfully. A population is all members of one species in a particular area. A community is a population of all the populations of a given area, and basically all living things. A habitat is where you live. An ecosystem is all the living things in a particular place, so it's the community and the habitat. A biome is interacting ecosystems in a large geographic area, and the biosphere is anywhere that life exists on Earth. So, autotrophs, or producers, are organisms that make their own food. Photosynthesis is using the sun to make your own food, and chemosynthesis is using chemicals from the surrounding environment to make your own food. Heterotrophs are organisms that need to obtain food from another energy source. Herbivores are plant eaters, omnivores eat both plants and animals, and carnivores are meat eaters. Saprobites, or decomposers, decay and recycle materials back into the soil. Detrivores, or scavengers, eat dead remains, and predators hunt and kill their prey to eat. So a food change is the path of energy transfer. Energy flows in one direction. So the sun to the producer, to the primary consumer, to the secondary consumer, to the tertiary consumer, etc. A food web is the complex network of food chains in an ecosystem. Only 10% of energy taken in is available to the next consumer. Trophic levels are represented by organisms whose energy sources are the same number of steps away from the sun. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but... So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen need to be recycled into the ecosystem. Continued energy input from the sun keeps these cycles moving. Some easy examples of cycles are the water cycle and the carbon cycle. The nitrogen cycle has strong covalent bonds. Producers need a constant source of nitrogen, and the nitrogen atom is not available in the form of these covalent bonds. So three possible sources of nitrogen are decomposers, nitrogen-fixing bacteria, and a fertilizer. A nitrogen source is required by plants so that they can make proteins and nucleic acids. Animals must get these amino acids and nucleotides from their food sources, which are plants in some way or another. Nitrogen fixation is a conversion of nitrogen gas into nitrates. It is accomplished by nitrogen-fixing bacteria. The phosphorus cycle is recycled by plants. So, a limiting nutrient is a nutrient that is scarce or recycles slowly. This limits the primary productivity of the producers. If there is a large input of a limiting nutrient in an ecosystem, the producers will undergo an increase in number. So weather is daily conditions, while climate is the average yearly conditions. Some factors that affect climates are greenhouse effect, latitude, and heat transfer. We should remember this from 9th grade. So ecosystems are determined by limiting factors, habitat, and niche. Limiting factors are factors that determine what type of species may live in a given area. Abiotic factors are non-living things, and biotic factors are living things. A habitat is where an organism lives, and a niche is the role or job that an organism has in an environment. So, competition occurs if two or more organisms are using the same resources or niche. Interspecific competition is between different species, while intraspecific competition is within a species. The competitive exclusion principle says that no two species can occupy the same niche in the same environment at the same time. Symbiosis is a close long-term association between two or more species. In paratecianism, one benefits and the other is harmed, like mosquitoes and humans. In mutualism, two organisms live together for the benefit of both. In commensalism, one organism is helped by the relationship and another is not affected at all. Ecological succession is regular progression of species replacement in the developing ecosystem. Through ecological succession, all ecosystems progress through a predictable sequence of changes during which one ecological community modifies the environment, making it easier for another community. These long-term gradual changes result in a community reaching stability that can last for hundreds or thousands of years. Primary succession occurs on land where there has never been anything living and there's no soil. It begins with a pioneer species that begins to prepare for another life form. Secondary succession occurs when there has been previous growth in an area, but it was destroyed in some way, like a natural disaster or something. A climax community or a biome is a stable ecosystem where succession has stopped. It can be modified by activities of organisms, climate change, and natural disasters. The altered ecosystem usually recovers from these gradual changes back to the point of an ecosystem stability, to ecological stability, so it gets stable again. Eutrophication is when too much nitrogen enters the water and it leads to high algae growth, which decomposes and takes up a lot of oxygen, which kills all the fish. And it eventually turns from a lake into a swamp into a field. Aquatic ecosystems are determined by depth, flow, temperature, and availability of limiting nutrients. So I hope that helps. Thanks.